to speak directly to the mentee and see if they felt the same or if they were feeling good about things, because sometimes it's self-doubt on a mentor's side. Um, and then they can move forward in that. But always to open the door to the conversation. I've also been available to replace and resuggest other mentoring opportunities. I do think it's important to address, and I get you fully. Sometimes it's just not a good fit, and there's something that's happening there in the chemistry between people that's not working, a particular approach, a particular paradigm that's insurmountable at that moment. The mentor who mentored me, what I was speaking of earlier, Gary Redwine, when I was 13, 14 years old, I couldn't hear him at the time, and he may have felt I wasn't getting it. He may have felt it was not working with me because I continually said I was 19 and I already knew everything. And, I was in my kid head and I was on the run. And he may have believed that and forgot all about who I was. But it meant something to me, and I was getting a lot out of the value of being mentored. I just didn't know how to demonstrate it. So had he have quit, thinking he wasn't getting through to me, luckily he didn't, but thinking he wasn't getting through to me, I wouldn't have continued to reap the value. So I also suggest to mentors, to keep trying and see what happens. Sometimes people aren't at a place to be able to say, I'm getting something from this. Instead, there's this answer, this defensive mechanism that happens, protectiveness, this wall that's put up for self-protection. And it seems like the person's not getting through on that end, but it means something to the person who's being reached.
It's interesting that that was brought up because with Big Brother, Big Sister, you have someone who touches base with you every month, as well as his mother. Does she talk to you sometimes, Kalanda? And touches base with everybody, and that's my biggest fear. I'm
Yeah.
thinking, you hit something very. It's been since my Boy Scout time and Cub Scout time. You wonder if does he think I'm a total nut job?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, we know that, right? So, you wonder if you're making that connection and
Yeah,
making that impact, but it's really good having that third party
it is.
to
Yeah,
be your checkpoint.
yeah,
And
yeah,
boy, I would be lost without that. I
yeah,
Because
really
it's
would.
so easy on either part to feel like a failure.
Yeah,
I'm
yes,
just not doing this right.
yeah,
yes.
yeah,
And the kids especially, it's, oh, I'm not, I'm not doing the right thing here.
yeah,
And it's
Right.
really hard, I think, to feel that it's just a match. It's not like you're letting somebody down.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And there's all kinds of ideas, needs, or wants that either party could bring into the conversation,
Mm-hmm.
into the pairing. And some of those needs and wants will be met, others will not. And sometimes there's a delay. Um, for instance, and it's always, I think, easier for me to use anecdotal events than lean into other people's. There's a privacy issue, so I'll use an anecdotal. I'm in a mentoring pairing right now with somebody that I absolutely value in the field, and I mean, she's exceptionally talented, and I have all kinds of ideas, and shortly after we were paired, my father had 9 strokes in like a 32-hour period, and he lives with me. Um, while I was trying to get to the hospital one of the days to bring something else that was needed at the hospital, my car was hit and totaled. And I got a head injury, my ribs got broken, all kinds of things went on. My car is totaled. And this has all been within like the 5, 6 week period we've been paired. So there's been some delays, and I immediately brought it up to her. And I said, would you like me to set aside a day and sort of speed work so that I get you responses to particular things that I have from you so that you have them? Or do you want to wait until I'm in a little better shape and can sustain what I want to offer you in a better place rather than putting it out at a lower level, which it would be at this point? She said, I'm fine with it. She said, take your time. I'm fine with it. Do what you need to do and get back with me, So, but I put it out there because I knew I was not 100%. There was no way I was 100%, not mentally, not physically, not emotionally. It was not going to happen at that time. So as a mentor, I also offered a vulnerability there. I'm not in my best place right now. Can you give me some time, or do you want me to just put this together to move forward for you? Because I'm willing either way. I just think I'll do a better job with it if I have a little bit more time and can do what I need to do at the work. In this case, it's two adults, you know, but I think youth are more forgiving than adults are, to be perfectly honest. I think that a younger person understands when things are going wrong, how difficult things can be. And so in mentoring youth, I've also allowed myself in many situations to say, this is happening for me right now. I'm not going to disclose the entire situation, but there's something that I need to attend to personally. When I get that done, I'm going to be back with you. But in the meantime, let's stay together by phone. We'll meet on Sundays. So something else is set up so that there's options where we're still in touch, but that they know I can't do as much as I do on any occasion. This happens in any life. And I think a younger person is often more forgiving. Sometimes younger people need breaks with things,
Yeah.
and suddenly they have a little break and they don't have to be in there 100% and they can come back to it when you come back to it. I oftentimes, during that phase of working with a younger person, will give them several assignments to do so that when we're back together, they have something to bring to me, and we have some fresh work there that happened in the interim period. And so they're still very involved with it, even when I'm technically out to lunch. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Yeah, so there's ways and options. The whole idea is keeping it fluid, keeping an open line. With the adult that I'm working with now, if I see something phenomenal, I will still shoot it to her on an email and say there's this availability. And it might be for her, it might be for somebody she's mentoring, because she's also teaching and doing other things, but I'll still keep that open so that we have a line that's open. And that's essential in any mentoring situation as a tutor, that open line, because questions come up. There's a new thing that comes up, and yeah, they only meet with you on Tuesday, but suddenly on Thursday, they're thrown this, new factor that makes no sense with what they had before. So you get that sort of urgent call or email, and I don't know what to do with this. And there's a little bit of time to attend to it and at least keep it open. I hope that's helpful. The self-doubt is a huge thing on both ends. Quite often will present as an obstacle because we want to be doing everything we can possibly do in a mentoring position. We all have limitations, and we're so aware of our personal limitations. It's there's all the things that are there that we're human, so
You
we're
want to wear this big S on your,
yeah.
chest and have a cape billowing
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
background.
yeah,
Be
yeah,
Superman, but it
yeah,
just doesn't
yeah.
always.
Doesn't always work that way. Yeah, put on your mask and be Batgirl for a bit.
Some of the little kids, I'm a terrible speller,
Ah,
and some of the kids have seen that I've made spelling mistakes, and it really is such a great thing for them
yeah,
to
yeah,
see that,
yeah,
and
yeah,
also to see that I can live with that,
yeah. You can be critiqued.
and that
Yeah,
I can make mistakes,
yeah.
and that
Oh, he
it's
knows how to
Oh,
okay to
do
make
yeah,
mistakes.
yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah, yeah. Uh,
I couldn't make a bracelet, could I?
when
We
I,
made bracelets,
oh,
and
cool.
I can't make a
You,
bracelet.
and here's the thing too. It's like, when we have our normal activities we do in a pairing partnership, whether you're tutoring in language or whatever you're tutoring in, ESL, uh, sports or coach, whoever, it's kind of fun to work in creative writing exercises with that. When my students in a particular subject's outside of creative writing, a particular study, are sent to go see something, an event maybe for extra credit, but it's like mandatory extra credit. You're going to go to this. I often will tell them, you have to write a 2-page response to this or a poem. You know, I don't care if you write a song lyric, but it has to intersect with this. Let's get a short story out of you, a few paragraphs of creative writing. It doesn't have to be a standard technical essay. You can involve creative thinking in almost everything that you do after a game. It would be really fun after a basketball game, after a football game, when you're back at home and about to go to bed, to think the game through. And first thing in the morning, get up and write it as a poem, get up and write it as a short story, a series of games in that way. ESL students, One of the things I taught ESL for years and years and years. My younger son was ESL and Head Start. One of the things that always sort of moved students was using something very familiar to them in a creative writing exercise that would transcend the language barriers, and get the feeling across, because that's what brings us together is the arts. It's one section of the world that we can intersect in because they're all subjective, number one, and number two, they're all sort of human creation. So you and I could look at the same painting and absolutely adore it, and you and I could go, and I love it, and you're going, I know what she sees in that. And so, but it doesn't matter what culture we're from, we still have that subjectivity in art appreciation, in reading literature, in hearing music. These are the places that as human beings we can coincide and coexist. We have our own separate taste, our own palettes of understanding what's in front of us in the arts. And so creating that also offers that diversification of the world again. It offers each voice a place to inhabit, to express, to be contained, if you will, in a particular piece that's demonstrative of what that individual had to give. So we have some real shared interest in that way. So I'll challenge you to come up with some creative writing from some of the things you enjoy doing that you might share with her. And then I think I'll challenge you with maybe doing some creative writing about some things that you enjoy and share with him so that there's an exchange about different ideas, different understandings, different enjoyments in the world. What is something you like to do as a hobby?
Me?
Yeah.
I do a lot of things. I rescue dogs. I needlepoint. I read. I have a library in my home. I read.
Great.
I'm terrible at it, but I write poetry. It's hideous, but I do.
Hideous poems are kind of fun.
So that's my thing. But that's basically, I'm a 20+ year substance abuse counselor.
Okay,
and,
great. Good
have
work.
gotten out of that just recently and went into my final few years of working something a little easier. So,
Yeah.
But my release has always been something artistic because
Great.
the other is terrifying job, and then you have to have that release,
Yeah.
and I find it through art, reading, literature, and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
so you're kind of the perfect model for bringing to him,
Yeah.
the value of that through all of those experiences and all the craft and everything. I love the needlepoint part. There's also this like school of people who do handicraft or, fabric work who also weaving, who
Right.
use that as meter, as a way to look at a structure or a
Right.
form of creative writing. And same with sports to make the rhythm of the basketball, dribble, to make the rhythm of the hoop shooting, the strategy of the game, the foundation.
We only have about 20 minutes
Yeah, wow.
left. So I have a question. Before we have to go into the room for the
Sure.
reading, did you want to give them some opportunity and to try something and some
Sure.
exercise and writing?
Yeah. Are you guys ready to do another exercise at this
Sure.
point? Okay. So this is going to be on patterns, strategies, patterns. Yeah, we can do that. So everybody got something to write with? Device, paper? Okay, so.
You're moving back and forth on that screen.
Oh, am I? I have a swivel chair. I have a swivel chair. Sorry, guys, on the Google. Swivel chair. I'm so comfortable. I've worked in this room a lot, so I'm very comfortable in here.
I'm glad. I'm grateful that those of you are just coming in because we had technical problems. This is the Writer's Garage, and we are doing a program with Allison Hedge Coke, just so you all know. And we have an audience of several people here, some who are mentors, mentees, writers, just concerned community citizens and volunteers. So, and staff. So anyway, who happens to be all of the above. So,
and I'm going to give a writing exercise. Could we also get some questions from the chat people? Are we able to do that?
No, because actually we got on so late. I don't know who's still online
Okay.
at this point. Nobody, I think we have people watching, but they're watching through the YouTube,
Okay.
not through the actual chat.
Not through the chat. Okay.
So that was our
technical
spirit,
difficulty.
But we have actually learned something.
Mm-hmm.
We have, but this is a process, and my guess is it'll be about another 2 events, and then we'll have it down.
Yeah, sounds
But-
good. Well, I'm happy to be part of the first one from
Thank
this.
you.
Yay.
Thank you, Allison, for
Thank you
being
to
so
everybody here.
So thank you everybody.
Thank
for
you,
your
everybody
patience
here.
and your kindness.
Yeah.
And sitting in the dark, because I'm not sure what the light would do if we were going to have the chats up here, but that's not going to happen. But.
So let's do a poetry exercise that lends itself to this. You could also apply this to other forms of writing, other genre, but let's do this as a poetry exercise just for now, this moment. And if you write hideous poetry or afraid of poetry, it won't matter. It's an exercise. Exercises are not intended to win the Nobel Prize, although they could be revised into one. So let's begin with this. Pick something that you enjoy doing, and I want you to write the mathematical scheme of it, if there is one. What is the math of something? In needlepoint, you have patterns that you make. In weaving, you have patterns that you make. How would you have a mathematical approach to a basketball game? Well, there's a clock, isn't there? There's score board, right? Every person has a position. There's numbers involved, isn't there? How many people are on a basketball team? A lot. I love it. If you can think of the number, use that. How many people are on a football team? On the field at any time? Huh? 11. And how many on the court at any time in basketball? Yeah. 10. Great. Okay, so there's some numbers. So there would be 5 from each team. Is there a referee on the side, umpire on the side? Somebody who's checking on things on the side, so that'd be another person there, might include coaches. So those are numbers that you could use so that you might say there's a court, right? So we have a page of paper, right? How many people on the court? There's 10 people, so maybe you'll do 10 lines of writing, right? So you have that there on the court. Okay, what else could you do to add numbers across? Is there certain plays that involve thinking in numeric sense, like you're going to pass the ball to another player or pass the ball to another player who will shoot? Do you have that in a strategy? No? Okay. Give me something from football that you could use. Do you have patterns in football you run on the lines? How many people involved in a play that your coach tells you to do? 11. Okay, so there's another number. So maybe you'll have 11 syllables across, right? So you might make one that's a combination of basketball and football, and it's your sport, what you like to do. Does that make sense? For everybody else, pick something that you like to do. Try to figure out a number sequence and create a form that fits that particular event, that particular craft that you do, that particular hobby you do. One of Quincy Troop's poems, as it's a 7-Eleven form, because when he was growing up in St. Louis, the old men shot craps in the back alleys, right, throwing dice. And so the form is 7-Eleven. It's a St. Louis style of poem. There's another one from that same region that's 7 and 7. So create a form and then write about the particular hobby, sport, craft, whatever it is that you like to do, using that pattern to vessel and contain that activity. I'm going to give you about 7 minutes. One interruption. When you create a new form of poetry, it's called a nonce. So what you're doing is a nonce exercise.
N-O-C.
N-O-N-C-E. Mm-hmm.
Everybody clear on what's happening?
Yeah, that's the puzzle, isn't it?
Yes,
Figuring
it
out
is.
our own strategy. And this creates critical thinking.
Do you like puzzles?
Mm-hmm.
Not really. What do you like? Why don't you write something about this?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Just write anything you like about vegetables or that you like about it. If the number thing scares you, just just write about something about video games, like your most, write about your best time. And maybe we work together. Why don't you come up with a number scheme? He writes something, and then you put his into your number scheme. Okay? As working as a couple.
He's a thinker. I thought there's 1, 2, 3.
Actually, it's the fine between 2:30 and 2:45, which was set up.
Okay, gotcha.
This is only
Okay. Okay. So long, Google people. Okay. Well, I'm glad you got on.
Everybody, we're doing an exercise right now, and if you just listened to it, we hope that you're working with the people in our audience to do this particular. We've got it currently muted until Allison's ready to speak again. Thank you for your patience. We have 1 more minute, so be patient and we will start talking about the exercise. Thank you.
Almost ready. So we had a really interesting thing happen right now, and it goes to show you how we're always learning and mentoring. So for just a moment after giving the exercise and creating a new form, a nonce form, using the mathematics of whatever we enjoy doing as a vehicle to start conversation. In our off time and mentoring before we come and leave again, we have this period where we write. And during the course of it, because we have limited time, and we have a younger person who clearly likes to sit and think about things and was obviously deep in thought. We thought just to get it going so that something would happen right now, my colleague Thea interjected and said, hey, why don't you do one together? And you can come up with the math and he can fill in. And they're over here giving each other a high five right now. So I think they're happy with their piece. And so what I really like to do at this moment is ask if they'd be willing to read it for us. And so I'm going to turn the mic around. Maybe they could come up here.
And you could be on the video. Would you like to come in?
But
But then you have to.
no.
All right. Okay.
Well, let's hear you read it.
Do you want me to read it?
You want to read it? Okay. Yay. Introduce yourself when you read so they know who you are out in the world.
Okay.
What is your name?
Jaquan.
Jaquan. Okay. Let's put that. I already knew your name. This is pretty hard.
Yeah.
This is for the world out there.
I'm going to tell them what we did with your poem.
I'm scared.
You want me to tell them how we did it? He'll read the poem, but what we came up with was
And who are you?
I'm Dina. I'm his mentor through Big Brother, Big Sister. 8 minutes in each quarter in Pee Wee football.
Right.
And we have 4 quarters, so we have 4 lines with 8 words across.
Oh, perfect. Exactly right.
Ready?
Wow.
That's amazing.
You read or you want me to? Want me to? Okay, well, this is what he came up with. Being a defensive end in a football game, I get to try to tackle the quarterback. That could bring me professional football fame, or I could make a lot of sacks.
Is in there. Beautiful. That happened pretty fast. So you want to tell us how you felt about that, working together with Rich and creative writer?
Ignore that.
Just share yourself. Forget
Don't,
that.
yeah, forget the mic is there.
Just
Don't
talk
worry.
to us. Just
Yeah,
talk
just
to us.
tell us.
That's right.
It's fun.
You enjoyed it?
Yeah.
So could you imagine doing other collaborative exercises together?
Do you know what collaboration means?
No.
No, collaboration is when we work together. We come together and work together on something. So I'm doing my part, Thea's doing her part. We're both sort of talking over each other. Mentor partners also collaborate. Sometimes writers, when they're working on a particular piece of writing, collaborate. They co-write together. Teams are certainly in collaboration. When you're playing football, all of the team is collaborating and with the coach and actually with the opposing team as well. You know, that event wouldn't take place without both sides there. So when we come together and we're working on things, we call it collaboration. So her question was, would you like to do other types of collaboration with your mentor?
Would you like to write another poem with her? Do more of these kinds of
More.
exercises together?
Like we did our bracelets. Will you help me with the bracelets where we work together? We're going to go to Earth Day next week. We're going to do some stuff together.
Oh, hooray.
What about other kids?
Somebody's trying to get in.
And Earth Day, too. I mean, here's another opportunity to create a short story, essay, poem, song, you know, dealing with that day. Everything you do can involve creative writing. Everything you do can involve art, can involve whatever you like to do creatively. We got the president of the Texas Poetry Society here who can attest to that. Do you want to offer anything about bringing poetry? Do you want to offer anything about bringing poetry into the everyday?
Well, I think it's very important for young people, and I was amazed with the students who came to the Poetry Society of Texas annual awards contest yesterday. Some of the very smallest children in grade school, I mean, they took that microphone and they held it right up there and had great confidence and read their poem to a great audience of people, and I was amazed by that because I thought somebody has definitely mentored these children, and because they have the confidence to do this. And now where I grew up, And in the situation I grew up in, I would have never had the confidence to be able to do that at the age some of these children were doing. So the teachers and the people who had worked with these children had done a wonderful job.
Beautiful. I wanted to offer
Okay.
something for the ESL
Okay,
instructor.
I want to follow up with that.
Okay. Okay. So right before the follow-up, she made me think of something with the ESL work. When I was teaching K-12, part of my assignment was ESL classrooms, particularly for American literature. But there was nothing for our Sudanese refugees at all in American literature. Obviously, they were here, they were kids, they were going to school, they were American at this point from Sudan. And so what I would do in those classes was I'd take notes of memorable lines from the students, and granted they were 14 to 18 years old, it was high school, and I'd write down memorable lines. And being the writer I am, after a while I had enough collected for a great lyric, and my sons at the time, other boys that were in our family as well, extended family, were doing a lot of hip hop work, a lot of rap, and so I challenged them and I said, when you guys are doing your next recording, would you do this lyric for my students? And they decided to call it Tribal to Tribal. And so they're all Native kids and they were doing it for the Sudanese kids coming. And one particular verse stands in mind. Don't wipe your hand across your brow, removing sweat. To a leopard, that's a threat. Take you down before you drown, crossing the Nile. And you know, wow, little brother, don't be fussing. Gotta walk 3,000 miles. Lost boys, lost boys. They had said all of these words. They had said it during class, like we're outside at recess. I went like that, oh, to a leopard, that's a threat, so I wrote it down. So the boys recorded it. They came to the school. They performed it. The Sudanese kids were like, that's us, it's us. That's our story. You put these together, teacher, and so excited. So it became an actual part of the curriculum in the school district in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. So the Lost Boys had their part of the curriculum. They were able then to expand it and bring in other creative writing that they were doing in the high school at the time. Many of them went on to college. Some became sports heroes in the local colleges, which was really great. And each one of them took it upon themselves to add creative writing to everything they were doing. So it just became something to expand American literature that they need to do from another viewpoint, another perspective. And here we come valuing other viewpoints, which in mentoring partnerships is absolutely essential. We have to care enough about the other opinion, the other perspective, in order to give what's needed as a mentor. We have to know what's happening there. It's not about what we have to share. It's not about our wealth. It's what part of that do they need? What part of that can they access? And being there, being present, and seeing what's needed and trying to fulfill that. At the same time, on the mentee side, and I was the bad mentee. I know all this. I'm 19 years old. You're not telling me anything when I was 13, right? So on the mentee side, that's not necessarily what's happening. It's trying to figure out what the other person has to offer. It's trying to figure that out, which is a huge puzzle. And knowing that it's that puzzle, it gives the mentor an added duty, added responsibility of being transparent, being someone that provides solutions rather than complications, right? So, okay, and she wanted to turn around the mic and ask a few more questions.
Well, here's what I want to say. We've got a program. I wanted to tie in with what you were saying at the moment about how people had helped younger people to get very excited about talking in front of and doing their work. We're having some events with Big Brother and Big Sisters that are classes, and they're just going to be getting in there. There won't be as much talking. It'll be much more just you doing some stuff together and doing it collaboratively. Now you know what that word means. Yes, yay. And so we were wanting to know if you would be interested in doing something like that. And then what we're going to have at the end of, like, maybe in June, they're having a festival for children and young teens and tweens. And what we would love to have is some of the people who've worked with us, the bigs and the littles, are the mentors and the mentees who've worked on stuff together, to get up and we would give a public reading. And we can train you on how to do that. It'd be with a microphone and the whole bit that you might be able, and we could publish some of your work online so that you can tell your friends that your work is online at the Writer's Garret. Would that be something that might interest you?
As long as you're not solo, right?
You can work by yourself. You can work with your mentor. Your mentor can actually do some stuff by herself, and we can have a, yours, mine, and ours situation. Does that sound like something you'd like to do? Yes. Okay, great. Well, I'm so glad. Now, that said, we're finishing up. We've got 1 more minute, and I guess if there's any, what they say in other programs, any burning questions or burning answers that someone in the audience would like to give or ask Allison. Otherwise, we'll let Allison say her final parting shots, and we will, yes. Not even parting wisdom, yes, parting wisdom. So thank you for bearing with me. And anybody have one final thing they'd like to ask or say? It's all yours, Allison.
Okay. I do want to mention it's National Poetry Month. And thank you to Writers Garrett for putting this together. Thank you to Texas Poetry Society for being here. Poetry Society of Texas. Thank you to Big Brothers Big Sisters for having representation here, to our pair here. Thank you to ESL representation, to writer representation and creative writing, to mentoring and tutoring. Thank you all for being here, everybody. I also want to say that there is another phenomenal program I'd like you to know about, to the youth in the room, and that's Poetry Out Loud, which is sponsored by the NEA, where Thea used to work. It's also sponsored by the Poetry Foundation, several other entities. And if you do take the performance workshop and learn how to present in public, if you get really good at recitation, there are awards that happen in every state. Kids from schools all over the state participate. It goes to a state level and on to the national level. I've judged in DC before, and I've seen some phenomenal presentations by youth in poetry, just unbelievable, really great work. I've also judged at state level in a few different states, and I want to encourage you to look at that. There's a lot of recordings you can learn from. So just even in a mentoring pairing, you can go on there and look at some of the recordings and see how things are done. There's also poems on there that you can look at, research, learn, and learn to write from as well. Oftentimes when we're writing, we are essentially picking up strategies from our own lives, like we just did with the exercise in nonce writing here. There's a certain form available to us that we create. We're also inspired continually by other narratives that have already been occurring, other pieces of writing, other events in the world that are affecting us. So maybe there's something there for you as well. And there's definitely a mentoring there. They have coaches. They have coaches, not just judges, but there's also coaches that work with them and help them to grow and learn to present. One of the greatest things of learning to present your own creative writing aloud and in public, it takes away your fear of presenting altogether in other atmospheres. Because when you're presenting other people's work, it's always a little bit easier than your own. When it's your own, there's a vulnerability there that, it's inescapable, and you have to learn to deal with it at some time or another. But when it's somebody else's work, you're sharing something you appreciate, you're sharing something you have respect for, there comes that self-doubt again. And that fear, another, real huge cue in learning about ourselves, is to deal with that self-doubt and keep pushing forward beyond it, reaching into somebody else's area there of self-doubt and say, let's get you through that. So your mentor is here for you. We're here for you. And thank you for coming. That's all I got. Thank you. Yeah. One more question. She's got one.
There's a book that I'd like to recommend, especially for ESL and
Okay.
kids.
Okay.
Kenneth Koch,
Okay.
late poet. He went into the Bedford Stuyvesant with, teenagers.
Yeah.
And
Kenneth Koch.
poetry and his book is called Wishes, Dreams, and Lies.
Wishes, Dreams, and
Lies.
Lies, that she is recommending for everybody.
It's really very vibrant.
Excellent.
Creative.
Excellent.
Thank you very much. You're
Very
all
good.
welcome to stay and talk afterwards, but we actually have to shut down this program because we got one next door and we have to set up for it.
So thank you, everybody. Yeah, thank you.